Lost reflections. I always believed mirrors held a piece of our souls. That belief turned into a curse the day my wife, Anna, inherited her grandmother's antique mirror. It was a grand, ornate thing, with a frame carved from dark wood and a surface that never seemed to tarnish. From the moment it graced our home, Anna was captivated by it. She'd spend hours gazing into its depths, her lips moving in silent conversation. I'd ask who she was talking to, but she'd just smile and say, "Old family secrets, love." As days passed, her behavior grew odder. She'd whisper to the mirror at all hours, her reflection always grinning back, even when her face was somber. I'd wake in the dead of night to find her side of the bed empty, only to see her silhouette outlined by the moonlight, her whispers blending with the wind. One evening, I confronted her. "What's in that mirror?" I demanded. Her eyes met mine, and for a moment, I saw a flicker of fear, or was it a warning? "It's not the mirror," she said, her voice a tremble. "It's what looks back from the other side." That night, I dreamed of shadows creeping along our walls, of whispers that turned into screams, and of Anna's reflection, smiling with a malice that chilled me to the bone. I awoke to an empty bed and a silence that pressed against my ears. I rushed to the mirror, and there she was, her back to me, whispering fervently. "Anna." I called out. She turned slowly, her face pale as death, her eyes hollow. "It wants you," she said, pointing to the mirror. I looked into the glass, and my blood ran cold. There, in our reflection, stood a figure behind us, its smile wide and hungry. The mirror became an obsession. Anna's once vibrant eyes dulled, and her laughter turned brittle. She'd stand before the glass, her fingers tracing the intricate patterns etched into the frame. "It's calling me," she'd whisper, her breath fogging the surface. "Can't you hear it?" I tried to ignore the mirror, but its pull was inexorable. Late at night, I'd find myself drawn to it, my reflection distorted by the antique glass. The room seemed colder when I stood before it, as if the mirror absorbed warmth and light. And always, that other figure lingered behind us, its grin stretching impossibly wide. Anna's health deteriorated. Shadows clung to her skin, and her once lustrous hair turned brittle. She'd wake screaming, her eyes wide with terror. "It's coming," she'd gasp. From the other side. Desperation drove me to research. I scoured old books, seeking answers. The mirror's history was murky, but one tale stood out, a woman, much like Anna, who'd inherited the same mirror. She'd vanished, leaving behind only a cryptic note, "The reflection consumes." I confronted Anna. "We have to destroy it," I said. But she shook her head, her eyes feverish. "It's too late. It knows me now." One moonless night, I watched her. She stood before the mirror, her whispers frantic. I glimpsed movement behind her, a shadow, elongated and sinuous. It reached out, fingers brushing her reflection's cheek. Anna's eyes widened, and she mouthed a word, "Help." I lunged, smashing the mirror with a chair. The glass shattered, and the room filled with a keening wail. Anna collapsed, her body convulsing. The shadow retreated, merging with the shards. I cradled Anna, her skin icy. "I love you," I whispered. But her reflection grinned, and Anna's eyes glowed with malevolence. "You should have listened," she said. "Now it's free." The shards of the mirror lay scattered across the floor, their edges sharp as betrayal. Anna's body trembled, her breath shallow. I cradled her, desperate to save her from whatever malevolence had consumed her. "It's free," she whispered, her voice a mere echo. "The reflection, it's out there." I glanced at the broken glass. The shadow had vanished, but its presence lingered, a stain on reality. "What do we do?" I asked, my heart pounding. Anna's eyes met mine, and for a moment, I saw my wife, the woman I'd loved, trapped within. "You must find the truth," she said. "The mirror holds answers." I searched the remnants of her grandmother's belongings. Old letters, faded photographs, they all pointed to a house on the outskirts of town. The locals spoke of it in hushed tones, the Whispering Glass Manor. Its history was shrouded in darkness, tales of lost souls and forbidden knowledge. The manor stood atop a hill, its windows like empty eyes. The air smelled of damp earth and decay. As I stepped inside, the walls seemed to breathe, secrets pulsing through the wood. Dust motes danced in the dim light, and the mirror awaited me, a twin to the one we'd shattered. Its surface held a reflection, Anna, her eyes wide, her lips moving. "Listen," she whispered. "The truth lies beyond." I touched the glass, and the room spun. I emerged in a corridor, its walls adorned with portraits, people who'd gazed into the mirror and never returned. Their eyes followed me, accusing. In the heart of the manor, I found an ancient book. Its pages crumbled as I read, the whispering glass-bound souls. To free one, another must take its place. Anna's voice echoed. "You must choose." I returned home, the mirror's pull stronger than ever. Anna lay on her bed, her skin translucent. "Release me," she pleaded. "Find someone else." I hesitated, torn between love and fear. The mirror grinned, its reflection merging with Anna's. "Choose," it whispered. And so, I stood before the mirror, my reflection wavering. The manor's secrets whispered, the price is paid. Anna's form dissolved, and the mirror absorbed her. I glimpsed her smile, one of triumph or farewell, I couldn't tell. The room grew colder, and the shadow returned, its grin stretching impossibly wide. Now, I stare into the glass, my lips moving. Anna's voice answers from the other side. "It's your turn." And so, I whisper secrets, and the mirror smiles back. Story 2. Dark Whispers. I had always prided myself on being rational, a person of science who didn't jump at shadows or get spooked by the creaks and groans of an old house. But as I stood there, staring at the clump of long, black hair in my shower drain, a chill ran down my spine. It was the 4th time this month I'd found such a thing, and I lived alone. The house was an inheritance, a quaint 2-story building nestled in the outskirts of town. It had been in the family for generations, and though it was mine now, it felt like I was just another guest passing through. The walls were lined with old photographs of stern-faced ancestors, their eyes seeming to follow me as I moved. Each night, as I lay in bed, the silence of the house was broken by a whisper. It was soft, almost gentle, calling my name from behind the bathroom door. "Evelyn," it would say, stretching my name out like a sigh. I told myself it was the wind, or the house settling, or my own imagination running wild. But tonight was different. The whispering was persistent, more insistent than before. I found myself drawn to the bathroom, hand trembling as I reached for the doorknob. The door creaked open, revealing the dimly lit room, but there was no one there. Just the echo of my own breath and the distant sound of whispering. I decided to investigate the history of the house, hoping to find a logical explanation. The local library held records dating back centuries, and there, I found mention of a woman with long, black hair who once lived in my home. Her name was Eliza, and she had vanished without a trace over 100 years ago. That night, as I tried to sleep, the whispers grew louder. "Evelyn," they called, over and over, until I could no longer ignore them. I got up and approached the bathroom, the air growing colder with each step. As I reached for the light switch, a figure appeared in the mirror, a woman, with long, black hair covering her face. I spun around, but there was nothing there. When I looked back at the mirror, she was gone. My heart raced, and I knew that whatever was happening, it wasn't just in my head. There was something in this house, something that had been waiting for me. The days that followed were a blur of sleepless nights and eerie occurrences. Objects would move on their own, doors would slam shut, and the air would often grow thick with the scent of lilacs, Eliza's favorite, I discovered from an old diary I found hidden in the attic. I began to see her everywhere, in the shadows of the hallway, in the reflection of windows, always just out of sight. But it was the whispers that haunted me the most. They were no longer just at night, they followed me throughout the day, a constant murmur in my ear. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows across the room, I heard a sob from the bathroom. It was a sound so filled with sorrow that it rooted me to the spot. "Evelyn," the voice cried, "help me." I mustered the courage to enter the bathroom once more. The air was colder than ever, and as I stepped inside, the whispers ceased abruptly. The silence was suffocating. "Eliza?" I called out, my voice barely a whisper. "Are you there?" The mirror fogged up, and words began to form on the glass. "Find me," they read. I reached out to touch them, but as my fingers brushed the surface, the mirror shattered, sending shards flying across the room. I shielded my face, and when I looked again, the words were gone. The next day, I went to the town's historical society. There, I learned about Eliza's tragic love affair with a man who disappeared, leaving her heartbroken. They say she died of a broken heart, but her body was never found. It was as if she had simply vanished into thin air. That night, the whispers grew louder, more desperate. "Find me, Evelyn," they pleaded. I knew then that I couldn't ignore them any longer. Eliza's spirit was trapped, and she needed my help. But as I prepared to uncover the truth, I couldn't shake the feeling that something darker was lurking in the shadows, watching, waiting. The whispers had become my constant companion, guiding me through the house's hidden crevices and forgotten stories. I felt Eliza's presence growing stronger, her desperation seeping into the very walls that confined her. It was a race against time, a search for answers that seemed to slip through my fingers like sand. I scoured every inch of the house, following the trail of whispers that led me to the basement, a place I had avoided since my arrival. The air was thick with dust and the past, and as I descended the creaking stairs, the temperature dropped, breath visible in the air. "Help me, Evelyn," the whispers echoed in the darkness. I found myself standing before an old chest, its wood warped with age. The lock was broken, and inside, I found a bundle of letters, love notes between Eliza and her mysterious lover. They spoke of a forbidden love, a promise to run away together, and a heart-wrenching goodbye. As I read the last letter, a cold hand brushed against mine. I jerked back, dropping the papers, and they scattered across the floor. The whispers grew frantic, swirling around me, and I felt a pull towards the far corner of the basement. There, hidden beneath a loose floorboard, was a small, decayed pouch. Inside was a lock of long, black hair, tied with a ribbon, and a small, faded photograph of Eliza. Her eyes, full of sorrow, seemed to stare right into my soul. "Find him," the whispers begged. I knew then what I had to do. I had to find out what happened to her lover, to bring closure to her restless spirit. The whispers guided me to the town's old records, where I uncovered the truth. Her lover had been accused of a crime he didn't commit and was executed, his name tarnished. Armed with this knowledge, I returned to the house. I could feel Eliza's presence, her anxiety palpable. "It wasn't his fault," I said aloud, holding the photograph. "He loved you, Eliza. He never abandoned you." The house trembled, a low moan rising from the depths. Shadows danced along the walls, and the whispers crescendoed into a deafening roar. Then, silence. A figure materialized before me, Eliza, her face no longer hidden by hair. Tears streamed down her cheeks as she reached out to me. "Thank you," she whispered, her voice fading. The shadows retreated, and a sense of peace settled over the house. But as I exhaled in relief, a new whisper slithered into my ear, one that wasn't Eliza's. "You found her," it hissed. "Now, who will find you?" The end. Subscribe for more. Thank you.